How many of you have heard of the USS Liberty? 1967. A former Navy attorney who helped lead the military investigation of the 1967 Israeli attack on the USS Liberty that killed 34 American servicemen says former President Lyndon Johnson and his Defense Secretary Robert McNamara ordered that the inquiry conclude the incident was an accident. In a signified affidavit released on Capitol Hill News Conference, retired Captain Ward Boston said Johnson and McNamara told those heading the Navy's inquiry to conclude that the attack was a case of mistaken identity, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. It was one of the classic all-American cover-ups, said retired Admiral Thomas Moorer, a former Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman who spent a year investigating the attack as part of an independent panel he formed with other former military officials. The panel also included a former ambassador to Saudi Arabia, James Akins. Why would our government put Israel's interests ahead of our own? Moorer asked from his wheelchair at a news conference. He was chief of naval operations at the time of the attack. Moorer, who has long held that the attack was a deliberate act, wants Congress to investigate. 15 years after the attack, an Israeli pilot approached Liberty survivors and then held extensive interviews with former Congressman Paul McCloskey about his role. According to this senior Israeli lead pilot, he recognized the Liberty as American immediately, so informed his headquarters, and was told to ignore the American flag and continue his attack. He refused to do so and returned to base where he was arrested. Later, a dual citizen Israeli major told survivors that he was in an Israeli war room where he heard that the pilot's radio report. The attacking pilots and everyone in the Israeli war room knew that they were attacking an American ship, the major said. He recanted the statement only after he received threatening phone calls from Israel. The pilots' protests also were heard by radio monitors in the U.S. Embassy in Lebanon. Then U.S. Ambassador to Lebanon, Dwight Porter, has confirmed this. Porter told his story to syndicated columnists Roland Evans and Robert Novak and offered to submit to further questioning by authorities. Unfortunately, no one in the U.S. government has any interest in hearing these first-person accounts of Israeli treachery. Israel attacked the USS Liberty using unmarked aircraft. This is the single fact which proves Israel knew exactly who they were attacking. Israel's story is that they thought USS Liberty was an Egyptian ship and therefore a legitimate target of war. Were that true, there would be no reason to attack supposedly Egyptian ship with unmarked aircraft. The only possible reason to use unmarked aircraft to attack the ship is that Israel knew it was an American ship and intended to sink it, then to blame the attack on Egypt. Admiral Moorer, who is top legal counsel to the official investigation, is in a position to know, agrees that Israel intended to sink the USS Liberty and blame Egypt for it, thus dragging the United States into a war on Israel's behalf. This seems to be a common trick of Israel. Starting with the Lavon affair, through the USS Liberty, to the fake radio transmitter that tricked Reagan into attacking Libya, to potentially 9/11 itself. Israel's game is to frame Arabs and set them up as targets for the United States. The official U.S. investigation is discredited, and with it, every claim of innocence for Israel that relied on the official investigation as a source. The real question facing the American people is why the U.S. government seems more concerned with protecting Israel after they are caught playing these dirty tricks, rather than doing something to convince Israel not to kill any more Americans. You can't find a preacher in this country hardly that'll even mention the USS Liberty.